Hello everyone, welcome back to another video at Modhouse Gaming. I'm your host Andrew, and today we're going to look at how to start the game of Blood Bowl. So you've done your pre-game sequence, you've done your inducements, you have your teams here, and you have your team draft lists ready to go, right? So you have everything in the pitch, you have your dice, all your templates and whatever. You just want to get started, all right? Stop talking about all this crazy stuff. Let's get playing some Blood Bowl. So yeah, you already decided who's going to be kicking team. That is part of the pre-game setup. So we're going to say, for this example, we're going to have the human team be the kicking team this time. So, kickoff steps. First off, we're going to go ahead and set up our team. So, rules about setup. You can see, it's hard to see, but there's a middle line here. This is what we call the middle of the field. And in between those, there's a bunch of other lines here. In between here is the line of scrimmage, between this line and that line, okay? 3 people minimum have to be on next to the middle in between these lines, okay? 3 people have to be on the line of scrimmage. So we're going to put 1, 2, and 3 linemen. Okay? So they have to be on the line of scrimmage. I know it's hard to see on this table, but there is a middle of the board, and that's where I'm setting them up. Cool. Now, there is a limit now for 2 people max on each side of these. For example, I'm going to go ahead and put a blitzer and a bodyguard on the sides here. There we go. Boom and boom. There's max 2. You cannot have a third person back here in the side. No, you can't have them here. You can't have them up there. If it's in that line, it's illegal. All right. You have after that, all the other players can go in any square inside this area. Okay, from this line back. Cool. So we're gonna put the thrower like in the middle here, maybe like that, and the lineman there. So that would be a setup, right? So there's 11 players on the board. That is your max 11 players. We'll just go over 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11, 8, 9, 10, 11. I can't count. Excuse me. So yeah. That's how you set up. Some people like it symmetrical, some people don't. Remember those rules though. There has to be 3 people on the line of scrimmage, 2 people max on the sides. You don't have to have anyone on the side. You could leave it open, by the way. That is legal. You can do that. I don't recommend it, but you definitely can. So yeah, that's how you set up your team. And of course, the kicking team sets up first. So the humans are kicking off to the Blackworks. So we're going to set up the Blackworks now as the receiving team. So they have 12 players in their starting roster when we do it. Again, this is the same starting roster that I guys showed you. I am using 2 of the starter sets for the Imperial Nobility for that roster, so I apologize for that. I forgot to mention that. But you get everything you need in a Blackheart team in your one roster thing. So we're going to leave 1 goblin in because there's only 11 players allowed because we have 12 in our roster. They're going to be our reserve. We're going to put them up here so you can barely see them. Right, so we have a bunch of teams, a bunch of players. We're going to put some Black Orcs up in front, get ready to punch and crump some Humies. There we go. We're going to set another guy on the side here. Give some extra little oomph. Big punch. So the reason why I'm putting a bunch of people next to these ogres is because the orcs are gonna punch first, right? So having that extra beef is gonna help them significantly when it comes to punching them. That's why I set them up like that. But you can see that I have a minimum of 3. I have a max 2 on each side, and I'm ready to go. Now remember, you can't go past that line when setting up. I can't have a goblin go that way because it's already past the line here. Okay? So just remember you're following those rules. Remember, minimum 3 on the line, but you can have more than 3. As you can see with the orcs, I put a bunch of people on the line. Minimum of 3, max 2. That's the rules. Everything else in the middle. Okay? Cool. Now that that's done, you've done your thing. So now you're going to go ahead and have the kicking team kick off. So first you elect a kicking player, because that can affect some abilities, some skills. So you have to elect someone. It cannot be on the line of scrimmage, and it cannot be someone on the sides. It has to be someone else in the middle. So, for example, we're going to have this thrower be our kicker. Boom. So he's going to kick it, woo, and you get to pick any square on their side of the half. And when I mean their side of the half, from this line over, okay? So, for example, I'll just put it right over, let's put it here. Cool. The ball is placed. I know you can't see it, but there are little squares here. And we'll go how these squares are used to play Blood Bowl. And now, so since you've kicked it off, you first have to deviate the kick. Not everyone's good at kicking the ball. All right, weather can become a factor. Everything can be crazy. So we're gonna go ahead and deviate the kick. So when you deviate a kick, deviate the ball. You roll a D8 and a D6. Okay, D8, D6. Roll the dice, and then you're gonna use your scatter template, the one that had a bunch of numbers on it and a little like circle thing. You put the 1 always pointing towards whichever middle it is. So, for example, 1 is pointing that way and 1 is pointing that way. Just depends on what side of the half. That's how I do it personally. You can do it just like, oh yeah, 1's always pointing that way or 1's always pointing that way. Whatever you guys decide, that's just how it is. It's just to make it random. So it says 4 to 5 spaces. So use your D8 as a direction. So it says 4. So we're going in direction 4. And use the D6 of how many squares it goes. So direction 4. So that way it goes 1, 2, 3, 4. So he tried to kick it there. That was his aim. But he kicked it all the way over here instead. Now, because it's a kickoff, you have to roll on the kickoff table while the ball's in the air. So you deviate it first. That's where the ball is going to land. It's like, whoa, okay? Like it was going to go here, but then it's like, ah. But during that time, something's going to happen. So we both roll D6s. So boom, add it up. For example, we got 6. Cheering fans, both coaches roll a D6 and add the number of cheerleaders on their team draft list. Remember the cheerleaders and the assistant coaches. May immediately run prayer to Nuffle table. So that's when you do like all your other stuff. You roll on the kickoff table. You do something random. Kickoff table can be found on page 41. Everything I'm talking about can be found on page 40 to 41 of the core rule book. I've been talking a lot. I need to slow down. We're going to go over each and every single event on the kickoff table so you guys know what to expect. You always roll 2d6 to determine what happens on the kickoff table. On a 2, you get the ref. Each team gains a free bribe inducement as described on page 91. This inducement must be used before the end of the game or is lost. You don't keep this bribe. We talked about bribe in our inducement video, so if you want to go check out what bribe does, please check out bribe. The inducement video. Next up, on a 3, time out. If the kicking team's turn marker is on turn 6, 7, or 8, and remember, kicking team, the marker is on your little dugout. It's marked by the hourglass symbol. On turn 6, 7, or 8 for the half, both coaches move their turn marker back 1 space. So if your turn marker is on turn 6, 7, or 8, you gain an extra turn. However, if the turn marker is not on 6, 7, or 8, each person moves their turn marker up 1 space, as in you lose a turn. Now, if you're already on turn 8 and you just kicked off, you don't have to move you already did your turn 8, you're already done. Okay? Cool. Cool and good. Next up, on a 4, solid defense. D3 plus 3 open players on the kicking team may be removed and set up again in different locations following all the usual setup rules. So it says D3 plus 3 open players. What it means by open, we're going to go into a little tackle zone here. It means anyone that's not next to another player. So for example, it said receiving team. These orcs, right, are next to these linemen. Even diagonally, he is next to him. So he is technically not open. However, this goblin is open because there is a space between them. Okay, there is a square. I know you can't see it, but there is a square between them. If you have a square between you and another player, you are considered open. It's not in your tackle zone. So that's what that means. And it does say any. It doesn't say like random D3 plus 3 open players. It says D3 plus 3 open players. As in, you can choose any open players. And that is for the, the kicking team. The kicking team. So it would be the humans that choose that. Alright, on a 5, high kick. One open player on the receiving team, so this is the receiving team one, may be moved any number of squares regardless of their MA and placed in the same square as the ball will land. For example, let's say that thrower kicked it too high and we rolled a 5 on the kickoff table. The receiving team can choose a guy. It can be on the side, it could be in the back, anywhere. It could just be placed, any open player, placed on the ball. And he immediately tries to catch it. I should probably also explain that if the ball lands on your guy, he has to try to catch it for free. There's no turnover for that. So that's pretty good. Cheering fans is the cheerleader. Whoever rolls highest, D6 plus the number of cheerleaders. Whoever rolls highest gets a prayer to Nuffle. If it's a tie, you must re-roll it. Actually, I'm sorry. If it's a tie, neither coach gets a prayer to Nuffle. So again, whoever gets highest. But if it's a tie, no one gets the prayers to Nuffle. If there's already a player to Nuffle in effect, and you roll again and it's the same effect, re-roll it into it as a new effect. Now, number 7, brilliant coaching. This is probably the most common one that will come up. Both coaches roll a d6, add the number of assistant coaches from their team draft list. The coach with the highest total gains 1 extra team reroll for the drive ahead. If this team reroll is not used before the end of the drive, it is lost. In the case of a tie, neither coach gains an extra team reroll. So again, assistant coaches can help you get team rerolls on the kickoff table. Pretty decent. Changing weather is 8. Make a new roll on the weather table. If the weather conditions are perfect conditions as a result of this roll, the ball will scatter as described on page 25 before landing. So basically, you do another D8 movement for the ball. We'll get to how that scatters. It's basically another bounce. Quick snap. D3 plus 3 open players on the receiving team may immediately move 1 square in any direction. So that would be the Black Orc team gets to move any square, D3 plus 3 open players on the receiving team may immediately move 1 extra square in any direction. That can include going past the line, the middle line, okay? When it says it can be moved 1 square, it can be moved up, okay? However, if it says reset up, then you have to follow the lines of the middle, okay? Make sure you remember that one. Okay, blitz. D3 plus 3 open players on the kicking team may immediately activate to perform a move action. One may perform a blitz action and one may perform a throw teammate action. If a player falls over or is knocked down, no further players can be activated and on the blitz ends immediately. So basically, the kicking team gets to have a free turn with D3 plus 3 open players. That is what blitz does. Officious ref. Both coaches roll a d6 and add their fan factor to the result. So this is where fan factor can help you. The coaches that roll the lowest randomly select one of their players from among those on the pitch. In the case of a tie, both coaches randomly select the player. Roll a d6 for the selected player. On a 2-up, the player and the referee argue and the player is placed prone or becomes stunned. However, on a 1, that player is sent off and is gone for the game. So, officious ref can be very brutal. It's on an 11. So just be careful about that one. 12, pitch invasion. Both coaches roll a d6 and add their fan factor to the result. The coach that rolls the lowest randomly selects d3 of their players from among those on the pitch. In case of a tie, both coaches randomly select d3 players from among those on the pitch. All randomly selected players are placed prone and become stunned. So basically, the fans got angry at the game, and they just came onto the field and just started socking people, knocking them out, stunning them. So yeah, D6, whoever gets the highest, it selects D3, but if it's a tie, then both players have to do it, and that really sucks. So that's everything on the kickoff table. Again, it is on page 41 of the core rulebook that you can get. So now, if you remember from before, we placed the kick. We deviated kick. Now we determine, is there someone under the ball? No. So if there's no one under the ball, you bounce it. You just roll a d8, and it bounces one square in that direction. So for example, this said 6, so it bounces in the 6th direction, which is that way. Now, let's say, again, it's not in the same square. It bounces twice. 8. And of course, it would bounce another time if you had to change weather result and it was perfect conditions again. That was that rule. But because it's not, it just bounces twice. So that's where the ball would land. Now let's say at any point, let's say the goblin was there and it did the 6, right? And it landed towards the goblin. The goblin immediately has a chance to pick up the ball. We'll get into how moving and picking up the ball works later. But for this, I'll just tell you right now, he makes an agility test. There's no modifiers because there's no one around him. And if he fails it, he rolls a d8 to bounce it and drops it. And that's where the ball lands. Okay? If it doesn't keep bouncing if someone tried to pick it up, it just lands next to said person. Okay? Just want to make sure that's clear. So, for example, if the goblin was in the square that the ball was going to land, after the kickoff table, right, it's still there, right, he has a chance to pick it up. And if he fails it, it just bounces to wherever it was going to go, 5. Or it bounces again, right, off of him. That's just it. That's basically it. After that, the receiving team gets to go first. That would be the Black Orc team, and they get to take their first turn. I know it's been a lot of videos, a lot of introduction, but we're finally about to start playing Blood Bowl, and it's really exciting. So I'm going to leave this setup here. I'm going to change camera angles so that way you guys can see how things work. We're going to go over movement. We're going to go over blocking. We're going to go over tackle zones, and we're going to go over passing, throwing teammate, all that stuff, all in each separate video. I think the next one we're going to do is movement, so that way you guys know how it works. And then the movement one, we're also going to cover how to pick up the ball. So I'll see you guys in the next one, and bye-bye. Hey guys, it's Andrew. I really forgot to mention, if the ball ever does on a kickoff go outside of the pitch, either from the end zone or on the other side, it is called a touchback. So a touchback, you basically give it to whoever is open in whoever the open player is. If you remember open players in the kickoff we just talked about, you just give the ball to the open player. He doesn't have to make a catch roll. He doesn't have to make any of those kind of rolls. He just gets it. No problem. So I just want to make sure that's clear on the kickoff. If the kickoff, it goes outside of the pitch. Thank you. All right. Bye.